friend or foe. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. Jesus Christ begins his Beatitudes with the words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." To be poor in spirit in such a way as to merit the kingdom of heaven doesn't mean to be poor-spirited. Rather, it means to see oneself as owning nothing, since all belongs to God. For all is a manifestation of his consciousness. St. John of the Cross wrote, "If you would own everything, seek to own nothing." That which the ego relinquishes, offering it up to soul consciousness, is reclaimed forever in cosmic consciousness. Nothing is ever lost. Yogananda tells the story in Autobiography of a Yogi of the levitating saint, Baduri Mahashaya. "Master," said a disciple of this saint once ardently, "you are wonderful. You have renounced riches and comforts to seek God and teach us wisdom." It was well known that Baduri Mahashaya had forsaken great family wealth in his early childhood when single-mindedly he entered the yogic path. "You are reversing the case," the saint's face held mild rebuke. "I have left a few paltry rupees, a few petty pleasures, for a cosmic empire of endless bliss. How then have I denied myself anything? I know the joy of sharing the treasure. Is that a sacrifice?" The short-sighted worldly folk are verily the real renunciates. They relinquish an unparalleled divine possession for a few paltry earthly toys. The Bhagavad Gita states, similarly, "All things are everywhere by nature wrought, in interaction of the qualities. The fool, cheated by self, thinks, 'This I did, and that I wrought.' But ah, thou strong-armed Prince Arjuna, a better lessoned mind, knowing the play of visible things within this world of senses, and how the qualities must qualify, standeth aloof even from his." Thus through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to man. So, ego, friend or foe. And as Dharmadas said this morning during the fire ceremony, yes. Friend and foe, I guess. We need the ego as we are evolving from the amoeba through the plant kingdom, through the animal kingdom. We finally become a human being. Yogananda says it takes about 8 million lives to get to the human life, and then it gets interesting. We can play as a human for millions more lifetimes. It's all up to us. That's the thing about the spiritual path. We have the brake and the gas pedal. We can slow it down or we can speed it up. And all of us who have kriya-yoga, we've chosen to speed it up, to move through this world of Maya and get rid of all those things that make us poor-spirited. Yogananda says that to be poor in spirit, not poor-spirited and a bad loser, but
To be poor in spirit means to get rid of attachments, ego attachments, to get rid of selfish desires, and to be fully open and receptive to God. So let's just close our eyes just for a moment and think about attachments, desires, and receptivity. It's important not to just intellectually think of these things, but to actually feel in your heart. So feel in your heart what it would feel like to have no attachments. Not to your car, not to your couch, not to your house, your family, your friends, your children, your parents, but just to be completely centered in yourself, depending on God for everything. Feel that freedom of no attachments. And then think about desires, the desire for wealth or fame or health, for love. Feel what that would feel like to just be free of desires. No desire except for God. And then imagine the feeling of surrender. When you don't want anything, you're not bound by anything, and you're completely open to God's whispering guidance, His love. So you can open your eyes now, but that's a good meditation to practice. Kriya-yoga used to say that every night before you go to sleep, mentally build a bonfire. And every desire that you've had during the day, pull it out of your soul like you would a thorn and throw it into the fire. Every angry moment, every impatient moment, every longing, every attachment, throw it into the fire. Be rid of it. Watch it go up in smoke. We need to let go of all these earthly things, earthly desires that hold us back. I remember reading about gratitude, and it was many, many decades ago, but this has always stuck with me, and I've always tried to practice this little technique. It was saying we should be grateful, and we should give. And we should give to the point where it hurts just a little bit. Because we can throw out the trash, we can give away the recycling, but what about the things that, that's a little bit hard to give that away. Give that away. And that's one of the things that Swami talks about. I brought this book up here today, Sadhu Beware. And what that means, really, sadhu beware, is spiritual seeker, watch your step. Because the path is fraught with lots of thorns and lots of boulders and lots of interesting situations. So be aware of where your energy is. Is it out there on the periphery, or is it inside? In attunement. Attunement is one of the trickiest things on the spiritual path. It's a very difficult thing to stay in tune, to get in tune and stay in tune. And to realize when you're starting to lean away from it and how to pull ourselves back. And to answer that question, to read spiritual books, to read scriptures, helps get us in tune. When we're pondering the scriptures, we're pretty safe. And when we're in spiritual company like this, when we seek spiritual company, it's a really good thing to stay in tune. So Swami, in this book, one of the things he offers as a means of getting rid of the ego is to, if you have a desire for something, to go ahead and buy it, to enjoy possessing it for a moment, and then to give it away. Because in giving it away, we experience the freedom of not having to take care of it, not having to make sure it doesn't fall and break or have to be dusted or get stolen. We just give it freely. And that's what we want to experience in our lives, is that freedom from owning nothing. And I'll tell you another little story. This is one of my favorites of Sri Ramakrishna, who was a great saint. He was the pujari of Dakshineshwar during much of his lifetime. And so that temple of Kali in India is very sacred also to Yogananda, who had beautiful experiences there. So Ramakrishna one day was visited by this wandering sadhu. And the sadhu came in to visit with Ramakrishna, and his body was covered with ash. You know, they rub ash on their skin to keep the warmth in, and also as a ritual of being a sadhu. And he only had a loincloth in his begging bowl. His hair was long and matted, and he was the picture of the austere sadhu. And he proceeded to tell Ramakrishna that he had renounced this and that and the other thing, and so many, many things he had renounced. And he meditated 15 hours a day or whatever it was, and just, was telling him all this renunciation that he had within him. And Ramakrishna was listening very politely, and then he called for an attendant to come in, and this woman came in, and she was young, she was beautiful, she was dressed in exquisite silk sari, and she had golden earrings and rings and necklaces. She was just lots of gold, even little bells on her feet made of gold so that you could hear the tinkling of bells as she walked. She was just like a goddess. And Ramakrishna said, "Would you please bring us some tea?" And she went out to get the tea. And then the sadhu went on and on about, his great powers of renunciation. And she brought the tea in and served it, and then she left. And Ramakrishna said, "She has no attachment to the silks, to the gold earrings, to the necklaces, to the rings, to the bells on her feet. She has no attachment. Whereas you are attached to your ash, to your begging bowl, to your loincloth, to your meditation numbers." I've often thought some people brag about their meditation as though they were in the Olympics, I meditated for 6 hours. Okay, that's great. Gold medal, get it. But it's the inner renunciation that we're trying to achieve, not the outer garb of it. We want to feel it inside. And this little beautiful woman had that inner renunciation where none of the outer stuff mattered. And it really reminds me of Swami Kriyananda, because his homes, he had one at Ananda village, he had one in Italy, he had one in India. They were always beautiful. I remember going to a store in India when he was furnishing his home there, and he went right for the chandelier, the beautiful Egyptian one that just looked completely astral. Every home he ever had a chandelier that had that beautiful light that was heavenly. So every place he had was beautiful, it was clean, it was well appointed, very comfortable. It was never attached to any of it. I remember we bought all these rugs for the home in India, and when we moved to Pune and he wanted to sell that house in order to put money into the Pune community, he gave away all those rugs. He gave us one. We couldn't bring it with us, but that was the non-attachment that he had. Anyway, I could go on, but you get the idea. It's not what you have. It's what you feel about what you have. Give it all to God. It all came from Him, and it'll all go back to Him. I remember helping a friend move out of her house and pack up her stuff, and she'd lived there for a long time. But she still had games that she'd played when she was 7 years old, and books, and just mountains of stuff. And to us who were helping her, it was like, why do you have all this junk? But to her, it was deeply important. It was a deep attachment. So look at your stuff carefully. Do you really want to be dragging all of this with you? You can't take it into the next world. As my mother used to say, you can't pack a suitcase. So here are just a few other little ideas from Swami about how to get rid of the ego. And one that's not in the book, but I remember him talking about, is just make an effort. Make sure you bow your head, because it's very easy to have your head sort of creep up until you're looking down your nose at the world. So if you feel, someone says to you, oh, you did an incredible job, that was just spectacular, and you start to go, oh, thank you. Just immediately put your head down. And that helps bring more humility into your consciousness. Okay, let's see. When someone has a good idea that you've already thought of, it will help you to practice humility by telling yourself, it's the idea that counts, not the person who had it. Reply simply, that's a good idea. Let's give that a try. Instead of claiming, I already thought of that. If others misunderstand you, wear their misunderstanding as a mental feather in your cap. Reflect that God alone really understands us anyway. Never place yourself mentally in competition with others. A good thing to remember on the freeway. Stay back there, I'm ahead of you. Never belittle anyone. View all with respect. Release from your heart any desire you may have to outshine others or even to shine at all in whatever you do. Do the best that you can always, but give the fruits of your efforts to God always. So I'll just do one more. Try to view with sympathy points of view that differ from your own. Well, that's a good one in these days of political tension. And some people seem to make a religion out of differences. You know, they want to have that be their identity. Well, we want to get rid of all self-identity and just identify with the true self. So listen to people, see what's behind their words, see what's motivating them, and help people to feel your support, your love in everything that they're doing. Even if you feel like if it's not a matter of principle, then don't fight over it. Let everybody be where they are on this spiritual path. And let's try to always live in Divine Mother's love.
This topic, ego, friend or foe, Swami is trying to encourage us to understand that ego is helpful to a point, because we have to realize that when we do something and it has consequences, that we're responsible for the consequences. And when those consequences are painful, then the pain reminds us, oh, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. And when the consequences are positive, then we feel that blessing and that encouragement to keep going in that direction. But at a certain point, the ego represents a narrowing of focus. Swami made an interesting point years ago talking about artistry and sort of the history of art, because in many ways he was an artist, as we know from him writing so much music and writing books and even painting and other arts, photography. He really focused on trying to express upliftment. And he made the point that in the 1800s, with the advent of the Romantic movement, that a number of the artists, particularly painters, but others as well, went crazy. And he explained why, in his theory, why that was because they had achieved a certain degree of mastery of their art, of their craft, and because it was so specific, because it was so elevated, or even to a certain degree enlightened, they grabbed onto that, and to use the gesture that Nirmala was showing us, the head kind of started to go back a little bit, either literally or figuratively, but it gathered, it was like, I'm very special. I'm very whatever, tumpty-tumpty-tum. And the rising current of that creativity was blocked by the ego. It was blocked by that sense of, but it's me, it's all about me. And it didn't have anywhere to go, and energy that doesn't have anywhere to go creates what? Dis-ease. Mental disease or physical or other, but it gets tangled up, and then trouble is the result. And so he was always trying to suggest, and that gesture that Nirmala was describing, bowing forward, what does it do? It releases tension at the medulla. Medulla is the point where the ego is seated in the body. It relaxes that tension. So it's not that we have to walk around bowing to everybody all the time, looking at the ground or whatever, but it's just to have that sense of relaxation that, there isn't, Swami also pointed out that there are artists, often musicians, who, are, swinging their head back, the hair's flying, but it's this kind of pull the head back thing. And it's because there's tension in the ego. It's like, it's me, it's all about me. And we have the opportunity to be instruments for blessing in this world. This is one of the interesting points that Swami makes in this reading. He's talking about the three qualities, and he's talking about how nature moves through us. And I remember I attended a lecture. This was one of these symposiums at which Swamiji, or conventions at which Swamiji was one of the speakers. And one of the other speakers gave a very interesting talk. And because we were present for Swami, we also heard the others speak. And he was making the point that you can mathematically and by physics justify the thought that within your body, right this minute, there are atoms that were in the body of Christ and other great masters down through the ages. And so it sort of goes, then you start thinking, well, so why is my experience different from his experience? Why am I not at that Christ level? And this master gave us this wonderful little aphorism that is quite profound. Thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. And, I don't know about you, but when I have a thought, I tend to think that's my thought. Or when I have a good idea, once in a while I have actually had a good idea. It's very easy to think, well, that was pretty good. And, that was mine. Well, guess again. Those thoughts were out there vibrating. I remember asking my mom one time, because we went to church and, we heard about the soul and, et cetera. And I asked her, well, where is my soul? It's like, is it, the heart is more or less here, and, you kind of, liver, whatever. You can kind of point to where things are. Well, where's my soul? She didn't really know how to answer that question. It's not one of those questions you can easily answer. It's like, she could have said to me, well, where is a thought? Where are your thoughts? Well, you'd kind of suppose that they're up here. But she just said, well, it's wherever you want it to be. So I think I decided mine was in my little toe. But, but the toe chakra. But there is this aspect of it that we are instruments for what flows through us. And where we are on that level, we can vibrate with the greatest saints and sages of the universe. It's one of the reasons Nirmala was suggesting tune into the scriptures, tune into, the ways that the masters have expressed, because it's a way of hanging out with the masters. If Master and Sri Yukteswar and Babaji and Lahiri Christ all came and, they were going to join us for snacks out back at the end of Sunday service, I have a feeling we might all be there. We might all just like, hey, whoa, what do you got to say? It's, it's like you would want to know what they have to say. And, if Master was coming to dinner at your house, you might clean it up and you might try to fix a really nice meal. And, it's like we don't tend to think of the immediacy of it. Living around Swamiji, we could, because he just vibrated at those levels all the time. And yet even a master this is one of these, that little quirky phrase, how the qualities must qualify. Every quality, whether it's elevating, whether it's activating, or whether it's stultifying and, downward moving, every one of us has some of those, including the masters. For a master, the tamasic or the, de-energizing quality might be just the fact that he takes a nap once in a while in the afternoon. I mean, it's very subtle, it's hardly limiting in any way, but it's just, there's always going to be a little bit of that element. But where is the consciousness most of the time? It's very, very elevated. And when we get to that place, we don't feel, and this segues back to what Nirmala was saying, we don't feel any sense of attachment to our stuff, even to our bodies, even to what we think of as our personality, because that's not who we are. We're beyond all of that. We use it, yes. We seem to possess it for a time, but just as, we own some of the body of Christ at any given moment, I mean, what is our body then? It keeps changing all the time anyway. I mean, medical science will show that within 7 years, basically every molecule and atom has changed completely. So then what the heck is tying it all together? Well, it's this ego. It's this sense of self that's saying, okay, you have a form, own it, possess it, use it for a time for blessing and benefit in this world. And we, all of us, and I love how Master gives us, and Swamiji, like in the book Nirmala was reading, they give us little suggestions, little hints. Master gave us a colorful little, very sweet little thought form. He said, be a smile millionaire. You can critique us today. How did we do with the choir? Because someone the other day was suggesting that we were not quite the joy singers. We were a little bit the grim determination singers or something. It was like, focusing on these, get the words right, get the melody right, sing your part right. Did we smile? Was anybody smiling up here today? We can't. Okay, all right. Okay, we passed a little bit. C+, B-? I mean, anyway. But we can, all of us, we have the choice to be a smile millionaire. We can give smile. I mean, Master said, if you can't smile, take your fingers and push the corners of your mouth up, which is a very interesting thing to do, by the way. Make yourself smile. I mean, and if you are smiling and looking in the mirror, I had a roommate in college who used to make faces in the mirror. It was the funniest thing to watch. He was like an actor. He would make the most bizarre faces. It was incredible. His face was like rubber. Anyway, but if you're making a smile genuinely, you cannot take a breath and go, I'm so depressed. It's like it's like the energy says no. The words can say whatever they want, but if the energy says something different, it's like the energy wins. So we want to follow the energy up the trail, up into the higher octaves of consciousness, because we get to hang out with saints and we get to hang out with masters and we get to offer something to others in this lifetime. Otherwise, all the stuff that we think we own, it's just moving by. It's like we walk by the river down here, the American River. That river is never the same from any moment to the very next moment. It's like it's moved on. It looks a little bit similar, but it's always moving energy. And whatever our body is, whatever our possessions are, our consciousness is never tied to that. And so we want to live in the eternity of realizing it's just, we have the opportunity to give and share something in this lifetime. What will it be? And when we do, we feel great joy, and when we don't, we feel a sense of loss or lack or, Nirmala was talking about giving up desires, and I don't know about you, but I mean, it's like, that could be kind of hard because desires are sparkly and fun, and it's like, woo, you get something on Christmas Day, or, it's like, woo, what's it going to be? Something comes from the, Amazon, or, it's like, oh my God, something comes, and it's like, you don't even remember what you ordered necessarily, it's like, well, let's tear it open, let's find out what it is. And, we, not a problem that we have every single day, but it has been known to happen, especially if it takes a while to come. But, you think, oh, that only lasts for a second or a minute or something. It's like there's this little dopamine hit, and then it's gone away, and it's like, okay, well, now what? But if we share something, if we help make someone else happy, if we try to think, okay, what has been the most fulfilling part of my life? Be it peace, be it joy, be it calmness, be it love, wisdom, whatever it may be. If we could help one person in this world to feel that, to have that experience in their way, whatever way they can arrive at that, we do not march through life lockstep like soldiers in a marching order. We all have our own rhythms, we all have our own flow, we all have our own, points of inspiration, but certain things are universal, even if everyone experiences it in unique ways. Joy is something everybody wants. If we can help someone to feel that joy, our lives are more fulfilled, and that joy, Swami gave us, or repeated, this lovely aphorism from India: the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it, which is one of the reasons why this little guitar, even though it was not terribly expensive, has just the loveliest sound, because it has been an instrument for chanting and Swamiji's music and Master's music and lovely vibrations for decades. All of us, how much more than just an inanimate guitar? We are instruments for some kind of vibration to come into this world. Let it be a very high one. And this world can be blessed by it, and others can be blessed by it, and more importantly, that's the only time we can have that blessing, is when we're giving it away to other people.